Did he sound anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
I assume so. He usually does.
There are three things in specific that I would say he will. Yeah, okay, yes.
He is going to give a brief presentation for the public hearing since Chris was not at our joint.
Okay.
But he's not doing the whole PowerPoint. So.
No, that's fine, yeah.
No, he's in the office. We were discussing
Okay,
this.
all right. That's Jerry, you want
Here in
Call us.
just a second. I would like to call this meeting to order. Sherry, can you do roll call?
Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
As soon as Marchant gets up here, or while he's waiting for me, I'd like to call our public hearings to order. Our first public hearing is for 6750 Fayette Street, the St. Paul Church signage.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is as you noted, a request for signage by St. Paul's Church. In our R1 district, we have a provision that requires churches specifically to go through a public hearing process, similar to a special use permit, to vet its signs. The proposed signs are within your packet. They are within ordinance. The one that is not currently envisioned by our ordinance is the off-site sign. That is photo number 5 you see. That's packet number page 17. If you remember, the St. Paul's Church, the previous diocese that occupied the building, actually, see the pole right there? That's where they used to have a sign. It was one of those ask for forgiveness, not ask for permission types of things. But now that has changed and there's a new owner of the property, that would not be permitted under the ordinance, but the balance of the signs would be. So we're simply looking for your recommendation to council tonight, and council will look at the item at their August 5th council meeting.
Is staff recommending, now their application is for 2 signs, but staff is recommending just the approval of the one, correct?
Correct.
What code section does this go with? I just need this for my information. So. Nope. Not my first rodeo.
I apologize. Section 58-346, subsection 1.
Okay, thank you. Anyone that wishes to speak for or against this item, please come forward now. Second call. Third and final. Moving on to our next item, 14550 John Marshall Highway, the rezoning. Marchant, you again.
Thank you. We'll be brief. This was a follow-up to the hearing that was jointly held on June 27th. This is a request to rezone the Pace West property from R1 to B1. This would include the entirety of the property as it would come in under the boundary line agreement that has been sent forward to the Board of Supervisors for their consideration. So the packet, since the public hearing, has not changed, save for the proffer statement, which I can distribute to you for your consideration, but the balance of the application remains the same.
Can you go ahead and distribute the proper language to the other commission members, please?
The three members of the group that's proposing this is here this evening: Mike Marsden, Sean Landry, and Keith Lowry. I got it right. So I can give you a clean copy if that's easier to read. I may have them walk through the changes, but I can cover them briefly before we get into the details.
Does the applicant wish to speak now, or do they want the planner to go through the changes with the commission?
I think we'd be comfortable going through them.
Okay,
That's
go ahead.
Real quick, Madam Chair, this is a track changes to the June 17th proffer that was in your packet. And in the proffer, they're offering to
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Mike Marsden.
John Major.
ones that have been spearheading this project. Basically, we have one proffer that we're still working on. We're trying to get all of the proffers pulled together for this evening's meeting. We have one other proffer that we plan to tender after this meeting later tonight. It's a proffer that deals with the sunset clause associated with the church, Living Hope, and St. Paul's School. So we should have that no later than 8:30 tonight. Back to you guys. Under park preservation, we have worked to maintain the spirit of the original proposal that we put forward, which is to try to maintain public use of the fields. And so we understand that is near and dear to the Commission's and the Council's heart, that we live by the spirit of that. We ask that this body consider that if we fall upon a dire set of circumstances, we have to have the ability to sell the property. And so what we've tried to do with the park preservation proffer is deal with that eventuality in a couple of different options. So the first request that was made of us was that they wanted to see us enter into a long-term arrangement with Parks and Rec. So we have put forward a 10-year lease with Parks and Rec. Now, within that lease, and we will attach that to the proffers that we send tonight, we will provide you the lease. That lease does consider the fact that there could be a sale at some point in the future. Now, that lease has not been signed off on by Parks and Rec yet. So there will be a final lease that gets executed that will have to be attached because we reference it here. So I don't want to go too far into that lease arrangement until Parks and Rec have signed off on it.
They are evaluating. They expect to support. They support the 10-year. They want to follow that same path that you guys have been going down. So there's a lot of support for the 10-year, but they also acknowledge, the considerations that what if. And as we've committed many times, if the three of us are owning this property and everything's healthy, there's no concerns, right? It's the what if scenario, the doomsday scenario that we have to have some way to be able to get out of the property without losing too much value.
And really, what's at the bottom of that, at the end, is that basically we're entering into an agreement with Parks and Rec that costs us money. So to pass that along to another owner at some point, I mean, it has no value. So if we had to sell at some point in the future, we would ask you to understand that we would at least need to try to trade it for value. So what we did was we put together first the 10-year commitment with this clause, if we have to sell it, that there are other options that kick in. So what we would ask is that if there was a sell, the first option would be that, let's see, applicant sells within 10-year period, this proffer shall expire. However, the applicant is required to offer first right of refusal to the town of Haymarket to purchase that property at fair market value. So that's one option that's contained in this proffer. The second option is to allow the arrangement to continue on with Parks and Rec for the 10-year period, because that's what we believe is going to happen. But should we decide that we can't continue to meet our obligations under the bank's agreement, that we would have the ability to come to you guys and say, hey, we're going to sell this property. Do you wish to enter into a lease at that point? That lease that you enter into would be conveyed to the new owners, just like any other lease that we would have for that property. So there's a lot in this first section, so I'll pause for a moment and
Open for questions.
ask any questions that you might have.
Also in the first paragraph that Mike went over, there is a position in there that I think the council put forward of if for a period of 1 year that the property was not leased, either by Parks and Rec, by the county, where we searched for a public entity with the town to notice to the town we would carry all the expenses for that property with no leasee for a period of a year. And then, once that property basically is no longer desired, then we would be able to use the B1 by right uses.
Madam Chair, if I may add that at the 27th hearing, there was a request by the council that they define what is commercially reasonable. And they added that language. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On line 6 of the park preservation, it says willing to enter into a commercially reasonable form of lease agreement. And they add the language at a fair market price, and that will be how they're going to determine how they come across that value. But I guess just to say in a different way, in summary, they have a 10-year lease. If that lease is terminated by Parks and Rec, the applicant has to make it available for a year. If within that year no one wants to enter into that lease, then they can move forward with a by right plan, which would require a site plan of the property and additional review. The other scenario is that if they have to, and then just the other two options that we were just discussing. So that's basically the nature of what the proffer's saying.
And our goal is really to offer up some options that kind of meet us a little bit in the middle. I mean, our only concern is that so long as we're owning the property, we're confident that this stays Parks and Rec. We have no reason not to do that. But if we find ourselves in a financial bind, which can happen, I want the ability to get fair market value for the property that I purchase. And I think that that's really all we're trying to do with this, is to give ourselves that ability should that eventuality fall upon us.
Thank you. First call for any and all that...
We'll get some more explanation.
Oh, okay, sorry. Moving on.
Sorry about that. Yes, so on our page 2, there's really just, I think, some minor changes with the wording on the site plan. And Sean, you can kind of make sure that I keep track of this. So,
Real quick before you start. So on site plan number 2, the direction of the council or request of the council was that they revise the proffer statement. The way it's currently written, or was previously written, was that until office use exceeds 40% of the building, they wouldn't have to do any site improvements to the property. The council had asked that they revisit that and more of a defined commitment to bring the entire site up to standard, and so that leads into the changes that we described.
And I think basically, again, what we're trying to do is leave ourselves just a little wiggle room should the expense associated with the site plan become significant and substantial, such that we would have time to lay out those changes over a period of time. Because we've heard different things about what that site plan could contain, and I've heard things that could run us in the tens of thousands of dollars. And we would just want to make sure that we offer ourselves in these proffers here sufficient time to cover down. That's all.
And then the last one, I'll jump in again, I'm sorry,
Nope.
is the council had also asked that they reintroduce language about the effective date of the rezoning being concurrent with the boundary line adjustment, which they agreed to add the language back in as item number 3.
Right. We want to make sure the rezoning happens so when the boundary line moves, we don't have an R1 situation again.
And then lastly, with discussions with the applicant before the meeting, there was a request by council to look at the possibility of looking at limiting the two uses, or the R1 uses that were permitted for the property, which is the school and the church. As they mentioned, they've agreed to
Limit it to the current tenants.
to limit it to simply the current tenants that are in there. So if St. Paul's School, which is there right now, they could be there for 5 years, for 15 years. But if they were to leave, that use would terminate within the building. Same thing with Living Hope, 5, 10 years. It's their discretion. If that tenant leaves, then that use would end. So if the commission were to support that, you could make that as part of your recommendation to the council.
And we support that.
How close are you to negotiating a lease with Parks and Rec?
We have the lease completed, our attorneys, everybody, we've negotiated all the terms, what it looks like for their comments. When I got, just recently, comments back from Ms. Haram about their process to accepting the BLA as well as the lease, they're going to take both of those forward to the council for approval. But the attorneys have reviewed it, they've received it, they don't have any further comment to our knowledge. They're taking both of those forward to the council to get acceptance of the lease, schedule their public hearing, and then, hopefully, I think their plan was on the 16th of July to have that acceptance and schedule the public hearing.
Sorry, Chris, that's the Board of Supervisors.
Yes.
Not this council.
I'm sorry, Board of Supervisors.
Does anyone else on the commission have any questions for the applicant?
When do we think we'll see the final set of documents in terms of the revised proffer, the revised or the elimination of the ZTA, the revised lease, et cetera?
Tonight,
Well, the ZTA has been, we said, submitted a letter to.
Yes, I'm sorry,
That's been redacted.
that was in an earlier packet, I apologize, that has been removed. That was removed, I can find exactly about 2 weeks ago.
About 2 weeks ago.
After the council had asked that it be,
Okay. It's been in every package I've ever gotten up until the one that was released late last week.
I apologize. In terms of the proffer statement, what we would expect if the commission were to move this forward and make the recommendation, it would be this language as proposed, plus the language about the commitment to the tenants. This version would go to the town attorney for his final blessing on making sure that it's in a form that can be executed, and then that would be presented to the council in August for action.
Any other questions for the applicant? Ralph, are you good?
Without seeing the entire package?
This is a public hearing, not our
Right.
decision.
I
We
understand
discuss that later.
Yes, I
Is that
understand
okay?
that.
I'm right there. I want to see the lease. It's
So the town, we've provided the last copy that the town has that. We've provided that to,
I'll turn that, I can turn that
Yeah.
around in a half an hour.
we
So,
can email it.
The latest.
Yeah, it's,
It's a 10 years.
it hasn't changed in a couple of weeks.
If you wanted to take a break, if that's something you could do within a break
I
period
can
of time.
print it
We
and
can go print it,
have
bring it back
copies
down.
for everyone.
Okay, thank you. First call for any and all opposed, for or opposed. Second call. Third and final. Moving on to 14550 John Marshall Highway, the special use permit. Marchant?
Thank you, Madam Chair, this is an application for office use within the R1 zoning district. The zoning district does allow limited office uses. They, as you see in their application, they've identified where the tenant space would be occupied in the building. Obviously, with the rezoning, this would become a moot point. But this is in conjunction with the other applications they've already filed and been approved for by right uses within the building, the school, the park, the church. This would simply allow them to move their offices into the building. In a limited fashion, it is consistent with what we envision the property through the comprehensive plan. So, happy to answer any questions.
I'm available for any questions.
Where's the special use permit in the package? What page is it?
Mine's not numbered the same way everyone else's is. So,
This is on my packet, it's page 59.
does anyone on the commission have any questions for staff or the applicant?
I'm sorry, Sean, you've probably said this a million times.
No worries.
What does QBE do?
QBE,
Summit, because I know they've probably heard it 1,000 times,
Yes.
so just give me like the elevator speech.
sure. There's QBE Global, which is our parent company. It's a company that wholly owns other entities. One of those entities, the primary one that operates here, is QBE LLC, which is our federal business. This is the organization that does our government contracting work. So we do a lot of work for the Army, Office of Secretary of Defense, a lot of Pentagon work, and we base that headquarters out of Haymarket, Virginia. So that's, right now, that office is right above Foster's in our Costello building. And that's where we're going to move that office with QBE Global that resides upstairs from the town hall. Both of those headquarters together into Pace West.
And what does QBE do? I know whether you said, is it, I mean, I may be classified if you're working with some of these military agencies.
We do a lot of classified work, but predominantly we're involved in IT, in business process, in executive level strategy work. So very high level Army strategy.
Okay. You're not developing weapons at Pace West?
Not yet.
Okay. I got you.
No.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
In reference to the special use permit, do the members of the commission have any further questions for the applicant or for staff?
No.
First call for any that wish to speak for or against this. Second call. Third and final call. Moving on to our last public hearing, the Haymarket District Overlay Revision. Mark Hunt.
I remember now, it's probably earlier in the year, there was a joint public hearing, and I did my perhaps snoozing presentation on the historic district. And the chairman had kept the meeting open, I think, for as long as people wanted to come and provide comment. This was simply a hearing to hear public comment. It wasn't necessarily the hearing that would vet the language that would ultimately be adopted. So certainly, by closing the hearing tonight, it's not your last stab at the apple. I'm supposed to be working on the revised language and the revised map, which you will again hear through public hearing once that's ready. So, if I'm making sense, you're okay closing the hearing tonight and then doing your other hearing later.
My question for staff, since we already did the formal public hearing portion and did the first call, second call, third call, do I need to do that again this evening, or are we just pretty good on this
I will
one?
go ahead and just make sure there's no one in the
Okay.
audience that could possibly be here to discuss it, and then close it out.
Does anyone on the commission have any questions for staff in relation to our public hearing on the historic district overlay revisions?
No.
First call for any for or against? Second call? Third and final? I'd like to close out all of our public hearings. Do we need to do a vote on that? Okay, we're good.
Administrative issue.
Moving on, we have citizens' time for our regular meeting. Does anyone wish to speak to the commission about anything? Excellent. Moving on, we need to defer the minutes of the June 17th meeting to the August 12th. Is that correct? Do I have the right date on that, Sherry?
Yes.
Okay, until the August 12th. We can now move on to our agenda items. Item 1 is the zoning permit application for 6750 Fayette Street signage.
Mr. Chairman, I believe I gave you the relevant code section, but it is ready for your recommendation.
Now, their application is in fact for both signs. We just need to be specific. It's only for the one, or does the applicant already know this?
I believe the applicant already knows that, but I would make sure it's in your motion. It says just for the one for the freestanding sign on Fayette Street
At the rectory.
in the record.
Do we need to make a separate, is it just a motion, one single motion
Yeah.
that approve one and deny the other? Do we have to make two separate?
Just one motion, and just I'll include that it's for the one freestanding sign at the rectory. Is that the proper way to phrase that?
Correct, I'm sorry. I'm noticing on here that they're showing a current sign that's not part of the application. So there's actually three signs. There's the sign that's on the corner that you're not going to approve. There's the rectory sign, this is on page 12, And then there's a sign in front of the parking lot that's actually already.
It's already there and being replaced, the way I read it.
Yeah.
So you're approving 2 freestanding signs for the church, 1 for the rectory, but not the freestanding sign
So
on
it's the
Washington
sign at the
Street.
rectory and the sign in the parking lot?
Correct?
The existing sign on the corner there.
Of the parking lot.
There's a picture of it here.
I motion to approve zoning permit ZP 20130604 in accordance with 58-346-1 for 2 freestanding signs to be located at the rectory and at the parking lot. Does that cover
Entrance,
it?
parking lot entrance.
There we go, parking lot entrance.
Second.
Discussion? Well, I'm the vice chair, I'm not the chair, so yes, I can.
Okay. Just want to make sure that we're procedurally correct.
No, technically for PC, the chair can,
Okay,
but
all right.
we just never
We
like
just
to
don't do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Motion's been seconded.
Yes, discussion? Well, he had his discussion. Anyone else?
I'm all good.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There we go. Moving on. Our next item is 14550 John Marshall Highway, the rezoning.
Madam Chairman, I just did want to offer, you do have options, and the applicant has said that their priority was to pursue the BLA, but certainly there's time for you to look at the rezoning application. What seems to be a flurry of activity was in part due to the hearing that was scheduled on June 27th. The turnaround to get it back to you on the 8th was somewhat short, and hence the reason why you're getting the materials this evening. If you feel you need more time to look at it and get the information that you need, that's within your discretion to do so. So tonight you either have the option to recommend with approval, with any recommendation or additional language, recommend denial, or move it to another commission meeting if you would like additional information before you make a recommendation.
I do have to ask a question of authority of the Planning Commission. How much input do we really have in reference to the proper language? I understand we give recommendations as a whole, but as to Planning Commission actually sending forth a recommendation to the proffers in everything else, how much authority do we have? Do we actually have that much authority for input?
You have the authority to speak on the entirety of the application.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. I don't
I mean,
want someone
ultimately, it's a
coming back later
recommendation.
and...
The council can either support that recommendation or not, but it's
Yeah.
with your discretion to review all materials that are presented to you as part of the rezoning.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd kind of like to see it move forward myself.
Would the applicant like us to defer this for a few more moments while we are waiting for someone else to get back with the...
Yes, they actually went upstairs to amend the newly recommended language as well as print off a copy of the lease for you all to review.
Okay, so we will just defer this for a few moments. Moving on to our SUP for 14550 John Marshall Highway.
Madam Chair, as you mentioned, this is a use within the R1 zoning district, subject to special use permit. Excuse me just a second. Subject to section 58-53, subsection 7.
Is this a newer or older form of this we're using? There's no
It doesn't really tell us anything.
there's no signature of mine for Planning Commission, or is this a newer or older or... Okay.
Yeah, this is the
So just
SUP.
initial this somewhere at some point in time? Okay. Now, the purpose of this SUP permit, and I assume that should be case number SUP, not SPA?
I think it's special use permit application, SPA.
Have we changed things? It used to be SUP, didn't it?
It's coming across as very embarrassing tonight.
Not my intention.
Whatever number it is.
We do know what we're doing, believe it or not. So if that's clerical error, let's just put ahead and go ahead and put SUP number 2013-0529 and move that forward.
And the purpose of this is because currently, without the rezoning, this is an R1 property, so to be allowed to have the office use in there, they have to have the SUP because the rezoning has not gone through yet, correct?
That's correct.
Correct.
Okay.
And I guess we're waiting on we're going to try to couple that with the boundary line adjustment.
Not this.
Not
No,
exactly.
I'm talking about the rezoning.
I guess if you
Yes
want-
and no.
The chronology was, the contract was signed, the BLA was put forward, along with the BLA was their by right uses in the building, which included the SUP.
And they'd like to get in there now.
Yep, and then the council had asked, well, the BLA, we would contingent upon you doing the rezoning application, so that's kind of where we are in the order.
But the
These two
council
married up.
has already sent the BLA, their recommendations
Right,
for that,
right.
to the BOCS, so.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you see on page 62, you have the narrative that's in there, and then behind it, you'll see where it's laid out in the building. And just for other references, you see where St. Paul's School is set up, you see where Living Hope Church is set up. QBE has its area, and then the reserve for future growth would be for the QBE to be able to move into those areas. The proffer we talked about earlier with the rezoning would essentially memorialize this diagram for those two other uses. And then the balance would be for the QBE. The one behind that shows the parking plan for the entire property. One reason why these uses would not kick in a site plan, we have specific language in our commercial districts which say any change of use requires a site plan. Usually that has to deal with stormwater and parking. In this case, this building can be parked at a full commercial rate and still have excess parking in it. So if they were to expand the parking, they would need to submit a site plan. If they were to do certain frontage improvements, that may do it. Just trying to think of some other things that may kick it in. If they ever develop other parts of the property or want to expand the building, put a second story or expand on the back of it, that would kick in the requirement for a site plan. Although, as mentioned in the proffer statement for the rezoning, they're saying within 5 years they'll begin those improvements otherwise. So what this diagram shows is more or less their parking plan. They're going to be required to make sure at least the spaces are visible within those lots, before the occupancy takes place.
So they will be restriping, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
That's already a condition of the by right uses.
Do you have intention to leave the basketball hoops up?
We're going to try. Right, it's the idea that we'll try to keep the hoops, but still restrict the parking lot.
Okay.
Because that's going to be the Parks and Rec primary parking. But we're still allowing the Parks and Rec to use our entrance and exit.
So hoops, yes, but we're just not going to have the free throw line painted on the parking lot anywhere, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
It doesn't exist today.
yeah.
This also helps us to make sure that we can already start construction and do all the improvements, get the improvements going.
Marchant, for the 3 uses in play right now, they are parked accordingly?
Yes. There's a balance. I believe there's a chart on that one, on the parking diagram that shows how all the uses are broken out in terms of parking.
Interesting, if I may, the hours of the businesses, if you actually did division of the hours of the businesses, none of the parking lots will never be full because the businesses use them at alternating hours. Even if we had all the businesses at once, we could support that parking. So we'll have access parking just because even the hourly distances of the operating times.
Thank you. So I'm sorry, we would be, on this particular action, this would be an action item for the council or the commission tonight, whether to move it forward with a recommendation of approval or denial or deferral to another meeting.
Do we have a code section to send forward with our recommendation?
Sure. Excuse me, I had it and I lost it.
Wasn't that 50-53-7?
Yes, sir, thank you. 58-53, subsection 7.
Go ahead. That was 58-53-7.
Yeah.
I recommend that the commission send SUP 20130529 forward with a recommendation of approval to the town council based on 5853-7.
Second.
Discussion.
Do we want to put any of the language about the parking in the ball courts, et cetera? I mean, what would,
It's already in there.
Yeah. oh, it is, okay.
Yeah, well,
All right.
the basketball hoops are, if they're there, if they can keep them there, but, you know, the ball fields are associated with something else.
No, not the
Oh,
ball, yeah, the court, ball court's not the ball fields, that's a whole different deal, yeah.
And the parking's already attached, so.
Right.
Any further discussion? Do we have to do a roll call vote on this one, or just a vote? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Alrighty, going backwards. Unless they need a minute.
So we have here is the revised property statement, page 1, page 2 is the email from transmission for the lease, and the last package is the lease.
Thank you. I'll give everyone a moment or two to review that.
Madam Chair, on the proper, looking at number 4, the sunset, specifically names Living Hope or St. Paul School. It's terminated, not renewed, and any replacement intends to comply with the current zoning regulations. So if these uses
Excellent.
were permitted at the time, they'd be allowed.
Do the commission members need any further time to review the
Yes.
documentation?
This is the withdrawal letter of the 716.
Thank you.
And it was not advertised for hearing, so it didn't really go anywhere.
Answer the question, or you asking more stuff out? So, just because I'm ignorant, maybe. This is what I was concerned about, is this right here. Their lease basically says that they can terminate the lease at one time, not due to financial hardship, not any. This just says right here, blanket. We can terminate this lease. So what protects us for the town to keep that? You know, what if 2 years from now they decide to terminate the lease, what it is in the pocket. What's interesting, I mean, they've got to keep it. And would it be the property as a whole, or that particular tract of land? Well, what I'm concerned about is could they parcel it out? You see what I'm saying?
This one I believe because the property is referenced as this whole entire parcel.
Okay.
And the portion subdivided, I don't think it is. But I will clarify that whether this, I understand this to say only in the condition of the sale would you be releasing yourself from that part of it. But the part of it is something different.
And it's not necessarily consistent with I just want to
Well, no, it needs to be,
protect us. Yeah.
you know, just make sure that's the clear discussion.
Yeah.
Would the commission members like me to take a brief 10-minute recess so they have a chance to review all the documents, so we don't have to keep them standing at the podium while we're looking over it?
Well, I can actually ask a question now. This is why I actually wanted to see this. Under section 3C of the leases of the premises term, see, unless I'm reading it wrong, which, I mean, this is pretty clear, it says that you can terminate the lease at any time, at your discretion. Not necessarily under financial hardship or, you know, but you can terminate the lease at will. And I don't think that your intentions are that you would ever do that, but I guess, and this is what I was just asking Marchand, which is why I'm bringing this up now, is what protects, you know, that it looks like that it would only terminate if you sold the property as a whole. I guess my biggest concern is that what would stop you from terminating the lease 2 or 3 years from now, because it clearly states it's at your discretion. Doing something with the property after. I mean, I see what I'm saying.
Yeah, so in my haste, I didn't bring that with me, but I think that, you know, we could always modify that language so that it's specific to the sale of the property. Because, I mean, that's, as we described in the beginning, I mean, that's the only thing that we need to protect against.
I mean, Marchand, you pointed out that property in the option 1 identifies it as the property as the whole. So, as maybe I'm looking into it too much. You know, my kids have grown up on that playground and out on those fields, and I know several other children have grown up out there. I mean, we'd love to see it stay that way. I understand business is business. I'm looking to try to. I mean, if it were up to me, I would preserve it exactly. I mean, of course, I'd keep it up a little bit better, but I would preserve it as it is forever, you know, going forward.
Sir, I don't know that you have been, but you probably reviewed some of the discussions we've had, but I think it's worth making the point again. I mean, our intent is to try to come to an agreement around an asset that we've already agreed on a price for. And so it's, you know, I've offered this example many times. You buy a home, and then after you've purchased a home, your homeowners association is now coming in and saying, well, oh, by the way, you've got to do something more in order for you to take control of an asset that you've already paid a fair market value for. So we want to maintain it for the fields, for the kids. I mean, the tenants that we have in there today, they're going to use it for what it's intended for. I mean, I've got language going back and forth between me and the Parks and Rec about scheduling already. So that's been most of the time that we've spent thus far is how do we get the field scheduled? Because, you know, St. Paul's wants to make sure that they can use it during the day. The church wants to make sure that they've got parking because they know that there's going to be a lot of public use. But I hear your concern, and if there's a way in which we can accomplish our only ask here is that if we are pinched, that we have the ability to move that off to somebody else for fair market value. That's all. And if there's a way to accomplish that, other than the way in which we've tried to describe in the proffers and then the attached lease, we're open.
Did you?
I was going to add what I mentioned to you just earlier, is that the way I read the proffer right now is the only ability for them to be relieved of this park preservation if they try to sell it, if they sell the property. Would not necessarily be subject to the provisions in the lease agreement. What I can do is have, the reason why I'm going to send this to the town attorney after you give your recommendation is to say, I'm going to hand him that lease, I'm going to hand him this, and say, do you agree that the commitment here is the sale? That's the legalese. That's the
Right.
Would you mind? I don't know if you can even make a direct note that Commissioner Chris Johnson is being a hard ass and wants to know if this specifically Section 3C, if that's going to take care of us in the event that they terminate the lease, are we still protected on that with these options? But
Well, I think at minimum, right, our obligation under the proffer, under the first statement, right, even if the lease was terminated, we'd have to go through a process of notifying the board, the council, going through a period of a year to offer it to another entity and carry the expense for at least a year, which is not something we'd be looking forward to do. Right. It'd be contradictory to our business of trying to, start digging another hole. Right. It just doesn't make sense for us. I think it was our intent, right, understand our attorneys, and they've been going back and forth with the leases.
I'm not going to make a recommendation. I certainly wouldn't. So, I mean, Marchand, just
I can take care of that. I think
whatever they.
Exactly. The applicant's intent, I believe, is to say subject to sale.
I got you. I understand.
Your expectation is sale. I'm just going to confirm with the attorney when he reviews this whole document to say, does this where the lawyers get involved? Does this document do what it says it's going to do? And if it doesn't, how do you?
Okay. I'm good with that then. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I want to get all the recommendations first before I send it to Martin.
Ed, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I kind of feel the same way. I mean, I'm just trying to understand if the proffer is the binding document or the lease. When it comes to, the fields themselves, I think we're all in agreement that we all want the fields to stay. But I think we, as the town, as the group that's here to kind of protect the interest of the town, we'd like to know which of those is the binding piece.
Well, Marchand, correct me if I'm wrong. The lease is just between them and Parks and Recs. The proffers run with the land.
Okay.
So when we put proffers on a condition, that runs with the land to where the proffered conditions we put in, when they go to sell it, it goes to the new owner.
That's kind of what I thought too. So that is the binding piece that we're concerned with.
Correct. Again, we'll have Martin make sure that.
That's kind of what I thought. I just want to make sure.
It's a little unusual to reference the sales contract in the exhibit, but I think what they're trying to do is outlay what their commitment is, which is.
And I believe their intentions are just that, to be there as long as they can be and be prosperous, and we'd like nothing better.
In my experience, Loudoun, people at their table make comparisons. When I do this on a regular basis with Loudoun County, typically the county attorney doesn't want to see it until we're done fleshing out similar to the minutia, and then we send it to them to say, is it actually actionable? So all of these questions, I'll make sure that, hey, everyone's expectation is this what's happening? Make sure. Property, yes, run with the land. To make sure this.
That's kind of what I thought, so I'm okay with that.
Commissioner Ring, do you still need more time to review the documents, or do you have questions for the applicant?
One of the things about fair market value, there is no comparable space in Haymarket, so I'm not sure that that's a good gauge. But I don't know what else you would use.
Well, at this time, I mean, we've got to do appraisals and what have you. What we're doing is an appraisal on the building as is, which we've actually done in the past, and there are some references to residential and A1 in both the town and the county. And they're also doing a 2B appraisal when there's quite a bit of B1 property with, that type of commercial space with land, right? And that's how it's viewed as land. And that's what gives us the asset to be able to lend against and grow our business, right? And that's, one of the constraints that we've had back and forth is we need the value to continue to grow our business assets as the banks continue to constrict without actually having to develop or do anything with it.
Commissioner Ring is looking at the language. The fair market price will be determined utilizing comparables for similar property within the Haymarket leasing market. I guess there's two ways you could read that. One would be town of Haymarket, 1 mile jurisdictional boundary. I get the impression this is meant to say the market is simply the Haymarket leasing
More like the
market.
mailing area as opposed to the town itself.
So if that's something we should, if that's, the commission wants that more specific, we could make that more specific. Or recommend that it be more specific.
Being in this financing myself, though, without a comp, it would actually almost go against them rather than.
Oh, having no ruler to go against.
Yeah, it actually almost decreases more.
Decreases.
Yes, it would actually almost go to a negative effect for them.
You're right.
Yeah. But I didn't mean to thwart you from wanting to add or amend anything there.
I have a question for the commission members on the proffer statement under number 1 for park preservation. Their opinions on option 1 or 2. I have to say that actually stating that the proffer shall expire after a 10-year period, I'm not comfortable with, since proffers ride with the land, but that's my opinion.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, you're referring to option 1. If applicant sells within the 10-year period, this proffer shall expire.
Exactly. Since proffers run with the land and they're kind of a safety net for when they do sell, I am not comfortable personally,
Whacking.
as a member of this commission, sending that forward with a recommendation to council.
Could we offer that this is something else to be reviewed by the attorney? Because I think our intent here was to just provide some continuity in the document such that if this does happen, then it's on its face, it expires. Right?
I mean, council could decide to make that. I just don't see where planning commission should in any way, shape, or form, when no other proffer has, to my knowledge, has ever been brought to the town, that in the event of a sale, the proffers magically disappear.
I think if you look at in the preceding paragraph, it does already set out that the limitations are already for 10 years.
Well, no, option 1, if applicant sells within the 10-year period, this proffer shall expire. So if they sell it 2 years from now, the proffers disappear.
I guess what I'm saying, if you were to take this option out, they're already saying up here, the lease will put forward Parks and Rec for a term of 10 years. Was it the intent to limit that?
During this 10-year period, the fields will be maintained for public use so long as the public or private partner was willing to enter into commercial.
So they're already by that language limiting it.
Limiting it to 10 years. But you're right, this one can shorten.
Yeah, but this one, if and again, I'm sorry, if, bad things happen and you have to sell it in 2 years and break your lease with them, at least by not putting this clause in, it doesn't change the actual proffer language. It would follow over to the next owner to at least try this for the remaining
That-
period.
So what we're struggling with, that would erode our marketability of that property.
As I said, council can consider it as a member of the commission. I cannot send option one forward with a recommendation of approval.
Right, and again, just because we make a recommendation doesn't mean that
Exactly.
the board completely ignores it.
It's-
It is, what we do is recommend.
Okay.
We don't excise language, we don't forbid language. We make a recommendation, the board can do, or the council can do
Now, is this,
whatever they want to.
are you just looking at option one or option?
Well,
one
I'm
and
just
option
looking
two?
at option one and was saying the proffer shall expire. I cannot in good conscience recommend that.
Right, and I don't know, and I'm just throwing something out. Is there a way to amend that text to say something along the lines of if applicant sells within the 10-year period, the proffer shall be reviewed, or there shall be some consideration made on the proffer?
Well, from what I understand from the legalese, any proffer, when land is sold, can be challenged. Is that the correct terminology?
Yeah,
Not challenging, right, for determination.
Yes.
Essentially, there are other options to get it amended.
right.
If they wanted to come in here 2 years from now and redevelop a portion of the property, they would have to amend the proffer statement. So that's how it's typically done. But that, it reopens the public process. You have hearings, allows the public to come out and comment. So, but that's no guarantee of approval. It's at the discretion of the council sitting at the time whether or not to approve that. So,
Our town attorney has yet to review options 1 and 2 and give any type of recommendations or,
correct. I was waiting
Okay.
for your input on it, and I'm going to send it to him.
I'd really like to get the town attorney's input on option 1.
Specifically,
About setting an expiration date on proffers
okay.
for the sale of, in conjunction with the sale of the property. I don't know about the other commission members. I would like us to get answers to our questions from the town attorney before making a recommendation to council.
I would agree with that.
I would think that would be appropriate.
So that would be defer to our August 12th, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Can I read the questions back to you?
Certainly.
Okay, first is to review the lease agreement, sections 3C against the proffer 1, park preservation. Assuming that the proffer rise with the land, as we know, make sure that this can do what it says it can do. That is, that it's contingent only on the sale of the property and not some other provision of the lease. Second question is setting an expiration date with an option 1, is that an issue? As part of the proffer statement. And what other questions?
Oh, didn't you have one?
Yeah, but I think this must answer that.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
may I make one?
Well, Vice Chair, but go ahead. I know Bob's probably watching this, twitching every time everyone calls me chair.
Sorry about that. Just before we go too far down the option 1, option 2 path, our intent was to really offer those as standalone options, right? Not to remain indefinitely in this proffer. Option 2 for us kind of solves one of the problems we were trying to get after. So I'm happy if we have a commercially viable lease to convey that on to the next owner without an issue. It's just for me to convey on to a future owner something that is actually costing money makes no sense to us. So if you really, I think you want to review one that solves most of the problems, it's option number 2, which essentially says, hey, for a reasonable sum of money, $60,000 a year plus CAM, which is very reasonable for that property, we would be willing to allow this to convey throughout the 10-year period if it was sold 14 times.
And we could just eliminate option one, save attorney's times and counsel's time, if you're more comfortable with that.
Well, we still have the issue of Chris wanting his question answered by the attorney, correct?
3C, yeah.
Yeah, just the Marchand, the way Marchand, I like how he put it. It sounded so more eloquent. Making sure that the lease does act in accordance with the park preservation, with the profit. I could put it this way. I at least want the attorney's comment for the council if we make the recommendation. Honestly, I don't have a problem moving it forward to the council. I just want to make sure that the attorney has time to review it when it gets there.
That's fine.
Okay. Anyone want to try to come up with a their motion to send this forward to council, or do we want me and Marchand to try to come up with that right now?
Well, firstly, did you simply want to leave option one and option two in for the council to review, or did you want to recommend?
No, for the recommendation, I personally feel better just recommending the addition of option 2.
I agree. Removing option 1.
And if you
And again, council can always add it back in.
Yeah, that's correct.
Take everything back out. Council could start this process over again. So,
Hopefully not.
sorry. I'm sorry, I'm being a little Miss Gloom and Doom this evening. I do apologize. So,
Can I help you?
oh yeah.
I would
Please.
suggest that the commission, if you would recommend, you would say commission would recommend that,
Recommend approval based.
recommend that they forward rezoning 2013-0528 to the town council with your recommendation of X.
Okay.
Subject to the proffer statement, we'll call it, dated July 8th. We'll go ahead and date it today. With the noted, subject to the proffer statement dated July 8th, subject to, or with the recommendation that option 1 be removed.
Option 1 and
And
proper
review
1.
of the lease.
And pending review by the town attorney of the entire proffer, and also specifically
3C.
the effect of 3C of the lease, parks lease agreement, 3C in relation to the proffer statement as a whole. And all that.
So moved. But anyway. All right. I think with my shorthand, I have that down here.
just say what he said.
Unfortunately, on the microphone over here.
Okay. Let me just. The rezoning number is 20130528. Correct?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I so know this is going to be wrong.
Here, you know what?
Do you have it?
On page 20.
Mine's numbered differently.
Do you have page number 21, packet number, page number 21? There is the beginning of the Planning Commission draft motion right there, which at least get you started.
Hey, I did put that in.
Great,
Then you
okay.
can add the remaining piece.
Which is,
There you go.
Straight to
Oh, here
option
we go.
1 and
Okay. No, I found it in mine. Okay.
Gotcha. Page 3 of the application there. Or the
Okay, so 2 on that.
memorandum.
That's
That's correct.
Okay, I move that the Planning Commission forward resolution, REZ, not resolution, REZ 20130528 from Haymarket Properties Group LLC, 14550 John Marshall Highway, to the Town Council with a recommendation of approval subject to the proffer statement dated July 8th with noted changes eliminating option 1 and proffer 1 and pending legal review of the proffer and the park lease agreement, specifically item 3C. Did I get it all?
I think so.
I'll second.
Just
Discussion.
there we go.
We don't have is the sales contract, and the sales contract is still, the last that I have, 5 years. What we have is the lease and the proffer. We have, in terms of, I knew there's a couple of things in the sales contract. I've looked through this so many times. The sales contract still mentions 5 years,
Yes, the sales contract always mentioned 5 years.
and there's no intention to change it to 10.
The
But
lease would supersede that, correct?
This is the final sale contract just for us to purchase the property.
No, I understand that.
Yeah. It took us 2 years, sir, to get to that point.
Did you tell you?
Would the lease supersede their sales
Yes.
for buying it if they're leasing it for a longer period? Doesn't their lease supersede the sales
Our
contract?
lease exceeds that requirement.
Yes.
It's actually, like I said, again, in finance, going to a 10-year lease is beneficial. It's actually better. So as if they sign into a 10-year lease, it's really more for the financing.
And that's fine, but the lease does supersede the sales contract, the purchase contract?
But they just wouldn't be able to go into anything shorter. Typically, they can't go into anything shorter, like they couldn't go into a year-to-year, or month-to-month, or
right.
even a 3-year.
All right. So the precedence of documents, okay, that's fine.
And the sale is with the Board of Education. The lease is
Right, with the park and recs, which are completely different body, or close enough, yeah.
Completely.
Madam Chair, also too, as noted in the draft motion, you talk about certain findings. Did the commission want to comment on a finding, whether it meets the comprehensive plan, which I did talk about before, is needs to does meet the long-use vision or long-range vision for the I'm sorry, if you go on page 2 of the memorandum, it talks about your issues for consideration and your comprehensive plan policy. If you wanted to make any statement in terms of this application meeting those criteria for the comprehensive plan.
I'll amend my motion. After the subject tos, recommend approval, subject to, and approval based upon compliance with our comprehensive plan. There we go. I think that sounded pretty good. Or do we want me to get real specific?
No. No. We'll be here all night if you do that.
I'll re-second.
Okay.
One second. I have an issue with it.
Our comp plan and proposed land, our planned land use. I'll even go that far. There we go.
I think that covers all the bases.
There we go.
I think so.
And what does this do to our historic overlay?
Absolutely nothing. We're dealing with an apple. You're talking about an orange. So, let's concentrate on the apple, shall we? Further discussion. Ed, do you have any discussion points?
No, ma'am.
Chris?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. My concerns addressed.
I think I'm done.
Okay. Does this require a roll call vote?
Won't hurt.
Right, you can't.
Exactly. Let's have a roll call vote, shall we?
Aye.
Yes.
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 And later you can show me if there's someone in there I was supposed to sign something because I can't find it. So, okay,
Thank you, gentlemen.
thank you very much.
Yes.
ARB update?
Nothing unusual going on at the ARB. Mostly we were just approving certificates of appropriateness. All special projects are on hold.
From the public hearings, you're kind of up to date on council, so going on to new business. Seeing that there is none, town planner report.
I think most of you may have, and Chris, were you at the town council meeting last on the first?
I was not there on the first.
On the town center master plan, final draft was presented to the council, which comes up with 3 options to redevelop the site as a whole. And the council directed that we form a working group to basically move forward with the design phase and solicit possible funding revenues to pay for that. So that was happening. So we have copies of the master plan if you'd like to take a look. Essentially, the 3 options were to create an a la carte program for whoever's coming together to pick each element that they like and make it into a single plan. So look to see that. It's not funded specifically in the county's budget, of the town's budget this year, but it's something we're going to try to identify potential funding sources for the design phase, absent of that budget. So other than that, I had ongoing conversations with McDonald's. In the easement language that governs the entrance that they have right now, if when you come off Washington Street, there's an immediate right into that. That's having a problem with backing up onto Washington Street. There's actually a provision in the easement that says, if by the request of the town council or the police department, if they wanted that entrance closed due to traffic backing up on Washington Street, they could do that. So I've gotten a letter from Mr. Leeberry, who runs the shopping center, to have the council weigh in on whether or not to do that. McDonald's separately, a while back, they were going to do facade improvements to put a second drive-through lane. That stalled for a while, but now we're going to come back and simply deal with the second drive-through lane. Although that will require an ordinance amendment, because right now we limit by ordinance a maximum of 6 stacking. Most ordinances require a minimum of 6. So anyway, there's an issue with the drive-through at the McDonald's, and the council will be asked to deal with it probably the next month or so.
Right, I thought the facade was mostly a dead issue. Nobody cared. Because that doesn't involve stacking. The facade wouldn't change that at all.
Correct. They were wanting to address everything at once.
At one time.
I think now, given the issue of the traffic, and McDonald's at first said with their new opening on 29,
Yeah.
and another McDonald's, I can't remember what they said where, that was going to alleviate the traffic that this McDonald's sees, but that doesn't seem to be.
I don't think so. I doubt it.
Yeah, I don't see that happening either.
Yeah, I mean, that's a change of commute for somebody to do that.
It doesn't take much to
Well,
back that
they
one up.
claimed that when,
Yeah.
when the one was torn down or closed down on 29, they saw a spike in traffic here. But I guess they're trying to argue that the opposite effect will take place, but we haven't seen it. So Sheets, I've had several conversations with Sheets. I expect that they're going to come back in with their redevelopment plan. They're likely going to submit a zoning text amendment for signage on the building, something different than what we normally already allow right now. So hopefully we'll see that fairly soon.
Is Sheets out of ARB hands at this point, or are they still in that process as
There's
well?
a stall. I think what they want to do now is come back, get the site plan underway, get the sign ordinance amendments underway, and then have the ARB review it at that time.
Okay.
Right. We, the ARB, had not taken
Well, they
vote
hadn't
on any of their.
they hadn't
on any of their
formally
decisions.
actually submitted anything to the ARB either, so.
Yeah, they had.
They have.
Oh, okay.
No, not, yeah.
They
It-
officially submitted, the ARB just hadn't made a final
Right,
recommendation.
yeah. We kept hashing it over.
Is the ARB on any type of similar time clock that the Planning Commission and Council are to act on certain matters?
They are, but the applicant can extend that timeline.
Okay.
I don't, did they officially request that?
They did through an email to me, but we could,
No, that's fine. I didn't remember if they had done that or not. I didn't think they had, not to the ARB itself. I don't have a
No,
problem
they
with the
just have to,
extension.
the staff.
Yeah, I don't, okay, that's fine. I don't have a
You're
problem
right, I
with
need
the
to
extension.
let you guys know that they, for some reason, they keep sending it to me knowing that I don't staff the ARB. So, I apologize. Well, the council also did permit a gymnastics use under a temporary permit in the old Rose Building, subject to VDOT weighing in on whether or not any improvements will be needed for Route 15 and the entrance to the, right by a la carte, where a la carte is, that they're not going to need, based on the number of trips that the gymnasium or the gym or the gymnastics area is going to generate, that there's no improvements that need to be done as part of that. And that within a year, they would have the final site plan approved and construction of all the improvements completed. So that's where we are. And I believe they awarded the contract for the streetscape, and I believe they're going to get underway within a month or so, I believe. So, okay. That's all I have.
Old business, historic district overlay,
I'm sorry, I don't have an update for you this evening.
our comp plan and our ZTAs.
Waiting on the overlay.
Okay. The 1 mile notice for John Marshall Commons.
That is, I believe, Chairman Weir is reviewing that right now for his comments. This is the townhouses and multifamily that are being proposed on the east side of town.
Robinson's Paradise, correct?
No, Robinson's Paradise.
Oh, no,
This is
1
on
mile
the
development, sorry.
East side of
Yeah.
Paste.
What used to be behind Mulker's Sport, now the business park that's there.
So, they resubmitted, and so Commissioner Weir is taking a look at it, and we'll give our recommendation. The biggest issue with that is going to be obviously traffic,
Yeah.
and just because we're so close, the police will likely will fall under their
First response.
first response. There's I forget the term right now. There's a reciprocal agreement, I believe, between the county and the town to provide police protection. So obviously, at that density, that's going to require some more resources of the town.
Does the Commons plan still call, it was actually 2 developments. One was apartments and townhomes, one was townhomes. Is it still that closer had condos or apartments or? Okay.
Right, it's still a total of around 600 units?
Correct.
Yeah, 400 and 200 or something. So I forget the next, yeah.
So those will be our comments. And also, the new town manager is here this evening, by the way. I forgot to say that as the town manager. Oh.
Yeah, there was only 2 of us at that one. Do any of the commission members have anything further for staff? Motion to adjourn?
Seconded.
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.